Hello, welcome to Feed Quality Talks. My name is Tunde Agbuola. Today, we will be discussing the topic wet maize management strategy. In the past few weeks, a lot was witnessed in the aspect of the poultry business. Maize was very scarce, and the few ones available were sold at highly exorbitant prices. Farmers and feed millers had to spend as high as 400 to 600 naira per kilogram of maize. It was so serious to the extent that a lot of farmers were unable to even feed their birds, while some feed millers were not able to even get the maize to produce as before. This now made a lot of them to shut down their operations. A lot of farmers even sold off their birds. The Poultry Association of Nigeria branches across the states began to raise their voice to the government so that they will be able to attend to this terrible situation. Even at the level of the Poultry Association of Nigeria Ogun State branch, they went to Abeokuta and had a protest in order for them to be able to tell the government to attend to the situation. However, a few weeks ago, a succor came. A little bit of relief came around when wet maize was coming around the poultry industry. A lot of feed mills have now restored their operation and they are now producing. However, what is available now is wet maize. And when we say wet maize, we are talking about maize that has its moisture content still very high. And this now calls for situation whereby we will be able to get exposed to the knowledge that will be needed in order for us to be able to manage the wet maize. Therefore, this video is about the wet maize management strategy, how you should approach the wet maize in order for you to get it to some safe level. So I thank you for joining this video, and if this is your first time of being on this channel, I want you to subscribe. Click the subscribe button and also the notification bell so that anytime we release a quality related video, you will be duly informed. So sit back and enjoy the lesson. Thank you. Wet maize management strategy. If the wet maize is not properly managed, a lot of things will get bad, because wet maize as it is, it has high moisture content, and this has reduced the storageability indices. It has made it difficult for it to just be stored directly in the warehouses. If this is done, it is going to get bad, and the money used to acquire the maize will go down the drain. Therefore, we need to take ourselves along the journey in terms of the knowledge of wet maize, and that's why our discussion today will be wet maize management strategy. So as we continue, the objective of this video will be to learn the best way to handle wet maize, also to understand the key areas to focus on while dealing with wet maize in trucks and warehouses. And number 3, we will gain the knowledge of how to get the high moisture level of wet maize reduced to a very safe level. And lastly, this will be about ensuring a mold-free, dry and mycotoxin-free maize, which will be obtained for high quality feed production. All this will be dealt with in this video. I will urge you to come along, and let me remind you, if you are on this channel for the first time, I want you to click the subscribe button and the notification button so that anytime we release our quality related videos, you will be duly informed. Now, as we proceed, let's talk about maize seed in terms of its structure. If you check the structure of a well-developed maize appropriately, you will see that maize has different parts. Though it's a small seed, but it has different parts, and different parts are contributing heavily into what is called maize, and in terms of the approximate composition and other nutritional composition it contains. when it comes to the structure of the maize, you will observe a particular part called corn germ or the embryo. Do you know that maize, as it's been patronized as the chief energy source of the poultry and other livestock feed, there is a reason for this. There is a reason why maize is being classified as a high energy raw material, and the reason is in the parts of its body. That's why I'm saying that when you check the maize grain, you will see a particular part called corn germ or the embryo. Do you know that if you gather this corn germ, collect it together from each seed of corn, and you combine everything together and grind it and determine the fat content, you will discover that the fat content will be as high as, in fact, greater than 40% in the corn germ. And you know, when we are talking about the energy value of any particular raw material, fat has a great contribution into the energy constituent of any raw material. And this part called corn germ is now making the maize to have its position as high energy supplier. Also, you know, when it also comes to the issue of energy, starch is also a great contributor. Then we will now be talking about the starchy endosperm, which is the upper part of the maize. That aspect of maize contributes a lot of starch, and this also adds to the energy level as found in the maize seed. You will see that different parts of maize has different roles that they play, and they come together also to make the maize to be an unavoidable raw material among others. The outer part of it, some of the a particular part that falls at the outside region of the maize is called the maize hull, which is also high in the fiber content. You will also see the other parts like epithelial layer, plumule, radicule, coleoptile, and others. They come together to make the seed called maize. We are talking about this so that we will know what we are dealing with when we talk of maize as a seed. Now, to some level of definition, what is wet maize? You know, when we talk about wet maize, you will now be thinking that, okay, if we can talk about wet maize, definitely there is what we need to call dry maize. Yes, dry maize, as we refer to in our past video, when we talk about the moisture content of feed and raw material, we are talking about the feed and raw materials that the recommended moisture content in them should be single digit to maximum of 12%. And you know, when we are talking about 12%, we can still make do with 12.2, 12.3, 12.4. However, when we now talk about wet maize, we are talking about the maize that has minimum moisture of 15%, which means the moisture content for the wet maize will now be from 15% and above. And you know, when we harvest the maize from the farm, the moisture content can be as high as 25%, depending on the time of harvest. But when we are talking about the wet maize, the type that is being taken to the feed millers, we need to be cautious the moment we are having something around 15% and above. So, as a result of this high moisture content, it makes the wet maize to require special attention because of its delicate nature. The reason is that if you mess up with the wet maize, it is going to become moldy even right inside the bag, and spoilage will commence. That is why I am warning that please do not store your wet maize in bags. Do not store your wet maize in bags. It is never advisable because of what I have explained here earlier. And as we continue, we will now check the critical control point for wet maize. The critical control point, the CCP for wet maize. Those are the areas where we need to concentrate our attention so that wet maize will not go bad in those regions. We have number one in the truck, in the bag, on the floor of the warehouse, and lastly on the pallets, because after the maize is dried up, it is going to be arranged on the pallet. All this we are going to examine as we go along the line of the teaching. The management tips that we need to observe when we are dealing with wet maize. You should note the arrival time of every maize truck. When the maize truck arrives at your company, it is better for you to note the time it arrives, and once it arrives, you do not delay in testing for the moisture and other parameters. You may, apart from moisture, you may also want to test for the proximate analysis, the aflatoxin, and others. But during this time when the wet maize are being supplied up and down, the best thing for you is to first of all check the moisture content, so that from there you will even be able to know whether it will be the decision of the quality control or the quality assurance to bring the truck in or not. The reason you need to be very fast in the area of testing is that by the time you are offloading the bags from the truck, there could be some bags that will have maize that had already gotten spoiled, maize that had already grown moldy, and that had already become unusable. All these you will need to reject. And if you dare delay the truck so long at the trailer park of your company, the truck driver can claim that all the maize bags that you are trying to reject got spoiled at your entrance. So that is why you need to attach time to everything that you are doing concerning the wet maize. Also, never delay in taking necessary decision on the tested maize. Now, you have done well by noting the arrival time of the maize truck. You have done well by not delaying in testing for the moisture and other parameters like proximate analysis and aflatoxin. But now your delay should not come from when you are now delaying the necessary decision to be taken concerning the tested maize. You have to contact the appropriate authorities and let the decision be made to know whether the maize will be accepted or not. This is highly essential so that you will not cause serious trouble at the end of the day. Management tips continues. In case the maize is cleared for acceptance, offloading needs to be done as fast as possible. The moment the wet maize is allowed to come inside, the best thing is for you to make sure that the bags are offloaded as fast as possible. That means even before the approval is done concerning the maize, it is very essential for you to have the team that will offload right on ground so that delay will not be allowed. And also, each bag must be examined for the physical check of the quality of the maize seed. This is highly possible, and do not entertain any excuse in this area, because you may be thinking that, oh, how are we going to maybe over 600 maize bags, over 1,000 maize bags, how are we going to get all this done? You have to get it done at all costs if you really have quality feed as your goal. The reason you must examine each bag is that some of the bags must have become some of the maize in some bags will have become moldy. And another reason is that you do not look at a truck as something that is coming from a single supplier. It could take about 10 suppliers to fill a single truck. Maybe you have requested for you have requested for about 100 tons of maize. The actual supplier that you call could have just 20 tons, and he will now have to gather the other 80 tons from several friends.
who are also into the business, and you cannot beat your chest about the quality of the maize that is coming from close to 10 suppliers in a single truck. Therefore, it is highly essential for you to conduct the physical check for the maize in each of the bags, and the one that you find to have developed mold growth or dark coloration, you need to reject immediately. You can still go further by conducting the laboratory tests like aflatoxin and some other tests. But the fact is that once the moles grow on the maize and the maize is getting spoiled through change in coloration, the best advice I will give you is to reject it immediately. Because if you think you can manage the moldy maize in your feed, you are playing with fire. You are playing with something that can bring your investment down. Because once the mold grows, the fungi will begin to secrete metabolites which could be toxigenic, and this will now lead to increase in the mycotoxin in that sample. So this is more reason you should not say you want to manage the maize that had already been contaminated with mold growth and is already having high mycotoxin value. Now, by the time you offload the maize into the warehouse, you do not store the maize just like that. You have to open the bag up and empty the content on the warehouse floor. You have to empty the content on the floor of the warehouse. And this now brings us to the condition your warehouse should be even before the arrival of the maize. And the conditions include good ventilation or airflow. Your warehouse is supposed to have a very good ventilation. That means the air is flowing in and out freely in the warehouse. The warehouse is supposed to be very clean. If it will take you to wash the warehouse before the arrival of maize, there is no problem. But the fact is that you have to be very sure that the place will be very, very dry before the maize truck comes. The place has to be very spacious so that you will be able to spread your maize very well on the floor so that the dryness will be very fast. The place has to be very dry, like I mentioned earlier, and there should be no dampness. No dampness. Dampness causes even the wall to peel at some times, and when you have this in your warehouse, it shows that there is high humidity in the place, and this means that the place will not be okay to dry your maize. This is not allowed because the maize may take very long period of time to dry, and this is not considered suitable. Management tips continue. Empty all the maize on the floor of the warehouse immediately, like I mentioned earlier, and you have to ensure that maize samples on the floor are turned from time to time. And because of this, you can use clean shovel. Use clean shovel for this purpose. This will ensure exposure of different parts of the maize to the surface, and this will surely enhance speedy loss of moisture. What you are doing through this process is you are making sure that different parts of the maize is exposed to the airflow or the ventilation that we are talking about. And do you know what? You can even go to the extent of installing fans and other air movement equipment in the warehouse so as to increase the airflow. So in turning this maize, apart from the use of shovel, you can also get some other implements that you can use to turn the maize successfully from time to time. And I will want to advise you that the minimum you can do in turning the maize is 1 hour. Turn hourly. If you think that, oh, there's no resources to conduct this, there's no resources to do this, maybe because of shortage of staff, please try and ensure that this is done within 2 hours interval. Refusal to turn the maize will surely enhance the growth of mold, and this will definitely increase the mycotoxin and spoilage of your maize. So in order not for us to lose the maize, in order not to make the maize to be spoiled, the best thing is for you to keep turning it from time to time. And turning it will not also allow some heap of maize in some sections of the warehouse to be growing moldy, so that all of them, like I mentioned, that all of them will be able to get exposed to airflow at the surface, and moisture will be reducing.
Thank you for watching this video. In order for it not to be too long, that's why the video is broken to 2 episodes. So please watch out for the next episode, where we are going to conclude the discussion on the wet maize management strategy. Please be on the lookout. Thank you. Cheers.